state capture inquiry report has been described as a victory against corruption in government and state-owned entities. Those already cited in the first of three parts include former President Jacob Zuma, former SARS Boss Tom Moyane, and former African Airways boss Dudu Myeni. The Commission is recommending an anti-corruption unit free from political oversight. Joining me now for this conversation is anti-corruption expert Dr. Benni Lekubu and Olwethu, Majola, expert in international anti-corruption law at the University of Cape Town. Gentlemen and lady, good evening, good afternoon rather. Thank you very much for your time joining us here on your daytime update. Let me start with you, Dr. Benni. A charter, I mean, if you look at what is recommended here, is a national charter against corruption in public procurement. What is a charter and how would that help us in enacting or redefining the public procurement process in South Africa?
Jacob, thank you so much, and thank you for having me. Good afternoon to your viewers as well. I think one of the key issues, and which are very important and paramount to the fight against corruption in this country, and especially when you look at procurement corruption that has been taking place over a couple of years and over the lockdown, it is now very important that we develop a charter where we're going to have commitments that are going to be made by government departments, that are going to be made by individuals that are working with procurement issues. I think it is paramount from this point of view that we then have commitments of people that are going to work for this government and deliver services that are of paramount importance to this country. It is going to be vital that we root out corruption as was committed by the president of this country. It is going to be very critical that we do that.
Yeah. All right. I mean, with, for example, a policy that's in place like the PFMA, it's one of those things that was supposed to curb corruption. You've got all sorts of other posts that you're putting in place. For example, in Gauteng, they speak of an open tender system, saying these are issues that would assist in curbing corruption in procurement. How would a charter, as suggested by this report, really take that fight against corruption forward?
Look, thanks.
That's for Olwethu.
Thank you for it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Olwethu?
Yes, I believe a charter would then consolidate everything that is currently available to the state in terms of planning ahead and also taking stock of what exists and what has worked so far, and also taking an assessment of the gaps that we've experienced so far and actually improve on what we have. So I definitely think that a charter would allow us to plan ahead going forward.
Yeah. So where do you think the gaps are, Olwethu? I mean, there's a loss generally of confidence in politicians and politicians doing business or government doing business with the private sector involving politicians. That's where this whole matter begins to be murky. So where are the gaps there? All right, I don't think Olwethu got me there. All right, Dr. Benni, you can come in.
Look, I think let Olwethu perhaps speak on that, because I think she probably looking forward to answering that question.
All right, Olwethu, if you can hear me there, you can take that one on. I mean, where are you saying the gaps exist there?
For example, with regard to public procurement, there are certain loopholes where you find that certain amounts of government contracts do not need to go through a tendering process. So I feel that some of these loopholes are currently being exploited. So I feel that a good survey of the current procurement systems that are in place are examined and also analyzed according to what is happening internationally, both in Africa within the developing nation context, as well as seeing what are the developing nations doing to ensure that corruption, particularly in this sector, is being addressed.
Right. Accountability, of course, being one of the big frustrations, or at least lack thereof, for those who are doing wrong. Dr. Benni, another suggestion here is an establishment of an independent agency to combat corruption in public procurement. And I already hear somebody saying, ooh, another institution, more budget, and more staff, more offices. I mean, we already have Chapter 9 institutions, and we have the SIU. We've got plenty of these institutions already in place. Why another agency?
Well, let me put it this way, and I think we need to remember where this country is going, and we want to also secure the democracy and protect our democracy. Now, what is important is also to remember the commitments that have been made by government, by our own president, to say we want to deal with corruption decisively. We want to make sure that we renew, we rebuild, and we are transparent and accountable as well to this country. So the issue that was then suggested by the acting Chief Justice, Raymond Zondo, with regards to an establishment of an independent, and I think we need to keep in mind, it's an independent anti-corruption agency, right? This agency, it's nothing new that has been suggested by Judge Zondo. If you look at literature will tell you there's been many suggestions that have been made on this particular issue. There's a lot of literature that says how it has to be established. However, I also want to put emphasis on the fact that you will notice that South Africa is a signatory or party to a couple of regional and international conventions. For instance, your UN Convention, your African Union Convention, your OECD Anti-Bribery Convention, the SADC Protocol against corruption. So these are conventions that promote and strengthen the measures to prevent and combat corruption. Now, for this country, I think we have spoken in a number of occasions on how this country is going to deal with corruption, and the commitments that President Ramaphosa has just made when he received the first volume to say we need to now start moving in terms of planning and strategical planning on how we're going to move. Such an agency, it's a yes to go. We as academics have spoken about it. We have made noise about it. It is a time that this country starts implementing the establishment of the unit. In fact, not even a unit, it's an agency. Now, what the question would be, what is it that you want to see in this agency? Let me give you typical examples. You would want to have established independent investigators. You are going to have prosecutors that are independent. You are going to have forensic accountants and forensic auditors, intelligence gathering units that are going to work together that will be able to deal with this matter.
Would you be able to achieve that extent of independence, right? You're already talking here government, it's public procurement, right? It's happening within a government entity with a political head called a minister at the helm. How do you achieve that degree of independence?
Thank you for that. And I think it's important that we raise the issue with regards to independence. And independence, you would want to see this agency not reporting to the president. That's number one. It shouldn't even be reporting directly to any minister. What you want to do or want to see, one, this agency would probably have to go and report to a portfolio committee, which then would report to Parliament. And that's the independence that you want to see. Secondly, what you want to do when you recruit human resource into the agency, a typical example, there is no way that you are going to recruit investigators that come from a former regime where these people were compromised or they had former or previous disciplinary cases or criminal cases that are against them. So we're going to have to vet each and every person that will have to be recruited in this agency.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us both, Olwethu, Majola, and Dr. Benni Lekubu there.